Long have you worked ER? A while. How long is a while? She capped her pen. Long enough. He nodded slowly, unsure whether he'd been answered. Behind them, outside the glass doors, a reflection shifted. Not movement exactly. A change. She saw it in the polished floor before she saw it in the glass. Her gaze lifted. Just once. Then she closed the chart. And waited. The reflection did not move again. People passed outside the glass doors the way they always did, brief silhouettes, brief colors, brief shapes that never stayed long enough to matter. A man in a gray jacket checked his phone while walking. A woman adjusted her bag strap. A delivery driver wheeled a crate past the entrance. Normal motion. Expected motion. She stood at the nurse's station holding a chart she had already finished reading. Still. Not staring. Not tense. Just present. The intern noticed her pause. Is that chart wrong? No. She set it down. Her attention shifted to the waiting room monitor instead, not because she needed it, but because it reflected the entrance at a different angle. The screen showed a faint mirrored slice of the doors behind her. She watched that reflection for 2 seconds. Then she picked up a pen. Next, she called. A man approached triage holding his side. Mid-30s. Clean shoes. No visible dirt. No sweat despite claiming pain. His breathing was controlled, but not naturally, it came in measured intervals, as if he were remembering to do it. She gestured to the chair. Sit. He lowered himself carefully, but his eyes did not match the movement. His posture suggested discomfort. His gaze suggested calculation. What's hurting? My ribs, he said. Fell downstairs. His voice was steady. Too steady for someone rating his pain an 8 out of 10. She clipped the pulse monitor to his finger. Pulse, 72. She took his wrist anyway. 72. Not elevated. Not suppressed. Just regulated. How long ago? Half hour. She nodded once and typed. Her eyes moved briefly to his shoes again. Running shoes. Dry soles. The sidewalks outside were still damp from early morning street washing. He shifted slightly in the chair. Not to relieve pain. To angle himself toward the entrance. She saw it without looking up. Any dizziness? She asked. No. Nausea? No. Shortness of breath? A little. His breathing pattern didn't change when he said it. She pressed lightly along his rib line. His muscles tensed before her fingers touched him. Anticipation. Not pain response. She withdrew her hand. Wait here, she said. He nodded. Relief flickered across his face, small, fast, almost invisible. She stood. Walked. Not to a doctor. To the supply counter. She adjusted a tray that did not need adjusting. Moved a blood pressure cart 6 inches closer to the wall. Straightened a stack of specimen tubes. Each motion looked like tidying. Each motion changed spacing. Lines of movement. Clear paths. Obstructed angles. She picked up a disinfectant wipe and crossed the hall toward environmental services. Door sensor sticking again, she told the maintenance aide quietly. He sighed. Which one? Front entrance. He groaned. It's always that one. Delay the open cycle, she said. 3 seconds. He shrugged. Sure. He did not ask why. At the reception desk she paused. System lagging? She asked the clerk. Always, the clerk said tiredly. She pointed gently at the screen. Reboot after next intake. It's dropping timestamps. The clerk frowned. It is? She nodded once. The clerk immediately began saving files. She returned to triage. The man in the chair had not moved his feet. But his eyes had. They tracked her. Not openly. Through reflections. Glass frame. Metal edge. Polished tile. She sat. Typed. Any medications? She asked. No. Allergies? No. She clicked the chart closed. You'll be called shortly. How long? He asked. Soon. He nodded. Satisfied. Behind him, the automatic doors opened. Closed. Opened again. 3 seconds slower than before. A stretcher rolled past toward radiology. Orderlies talking quietly. Wheels squeaking faintly. Routine noise. Routine motion. She watched the stretcher until it cleared the corridor. Then she glanced once more toward the entrance. Outside, a police cruiser passed slowly along the street. It did not stop. It did not signal. It continued past the hospital. Her eyes followed it until it disappeared beyond the glass frame. Then she lowered her gaze back to the desk. Her expression did not change. But she did not pick up the next chart. Not yet. She waited. Counting something only she could see. She counted in silence. Not seconds. Patterns. The entrance glass reflected the street in narrow fragments, passing tires, light shifts, shadows stretching and compressing as vehicles moved. Most people saw only motion. She watched timing. Traffic flow. Gaps. At first there was nothing. Then. A break in the pattern. Not sound. Absence. The street outside slowed. Drivers did not stop, but they hesitated. A ripple passed through the reflections, subtle and synchronized, like wind bending grass in one direction. Her eyes lifted slightly. Still calm. Still unreadable. The first siren was distant. Not loud enough to alarm anyone. Just a thin thread of sound buried under hospital noise, printers, footsteps, voices, the hum of climate vents. No one reacted. Except her. She did not turn toward the sound. She watched the glass. A blue flicker crossed the reflection. Gone. 3 seconds later, red. Gone. She resumed writing. At the station, the intern frowned at his tablet. Is it supposed to buffer this long? Yes, she said. It's been spinning for 30 seconds. Yes. He waited. So, that's normal? No. He blinked. She signed her note and stood. Restart it. Oh. Okay. He obeyed immediately. The siren grew louder. Still distant. Still not urgent enough for alarm. A doctor passing through the hall glanced toward the entrance. Someone's having a bad morning, he murmured. No one answered. The waiting room television laughed brightly at something pre-recorded. She walked toward the supply alcove. Not fast. Not slow. Exactly the speed she always moved. On the way, she shifted a rolling stool slightly inward with her foot. Anyone rushing would now have to angle around it instead of running straight through the corridor. She checked a wall-mounted sanitizer dispenser. Full. She pressed it anyway. A drop fell. She wiped it with gauze. Routine. Outside, a police cruiser stopped. The reflection showed it first. Then the real thing slid into view beyond the glass. It parked at the curb. Engine running. Doors closed. No lights. No one inside the ER reacted. Most people never noticed police unless they arrived with noise. She continued down the corridor. Room 7. Inside, a middle-aged man lay hooked to cardiac leads, half asleep. His monitor traced steady green hills. She adjusted one electrode by a millimeter. The line smoothed. He did not wake. She stepped out. Another cruiser arrived. This one did not pull to the curb. It stopped in the street. Behind it, traffic slowed. A third vehicle turned the corner. No siren. Just movement. At the nurse's station, the charge nurse finally noticed. "Huh," she said softly. A resident looked up. "What?" She gestured toward the doors. "Police." The resident glanced. "Probably a transfer." "Maybe." She returned to triage. The man with the rib injury sat exactly as before. But now his jaw was tighter. His foot had shifted half an inch. His breathing rhythm had changed. Not faster. More deliberate. She sat across from him. Typed nothing. Watched the reflection in the black edge of her monitor. Outside, a fourth vehicle arrived. This one angled slightly. Positioning. The air in the waiting room changed before anyone understood why. Conversations softened. Not consciously. Instinctively. People sensed something assembling outside the walls, something structured and controlled and official. The television kept laughing. The automatic doors opened. Closed. Opened again. 3 seconds. Still delayed. At the front desk, the receptionist leaned sideways to see outside. "That's a lot of squad cars," she murmured. Said another clerk. No one stood. Hospitals trained people not to react quickly unless told to. She rose from her chair. Picked up a clipboard. Walked toward the entrance. Her reflection approached her in the glass. Halfway there, she stopped beside a housekeeping cart. Adjusted the angle so it sat perpendicular to the wall instead of parallel. Anyone entering quickly would now have to slow. She continued. Outside, an officer stepped out of the lead cruiser. Hand near his radio. Eyes scanning. Not casual. Not relaxed. He spoke into his shoulder mic. Another cruiser door opened. Inside, the injured man in triage swallowed. It was the first involuntary movement he had made. She saw it in the reflection. Not by looking at him. She reached the doors. Stopped 2 feet short of the sensor line. Close enough to see out. Far enough not to trigger them. Her gaze moved once across the scene outside. Vehicle spacing. Officer posture. Sightlines. She exhaled slowly through her nose. Behind her, the charge nurse called, "Carter? You got a trauma coming?" "No," she said. Her voice was calm. Certain. She did not turn around. Outside, another cruiser rolled up fast. This one did not park. It blocked. Angled across the lane. The officer who stepped out this time did not look at the hospital. He looked down the street. Searching. Tracking. Inside, the waiting room television laughter stopped as the program cut to commercial. Silence settled briefly across the ER. In that silence. Footsteps. Running. Not inside. Outside. Approaching. Fast. Her eyes did not widen. Her shoulders did not tense. But her weight shifted. Barely. Balanced now. Ready. Behind her. The sound of someone slamming into the glass doors. The impact rattled the glass but did not break it. The automatic doors hesitated. 3 seconds. Long enough for the sound to travel across the ER. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. A chair leg scraped tile somewhere in the waiting room. The television continued silently, muted captions scrolling across smiling faces that no longer matched the room. She did not move. Her eyes were already on the reflection. A shape pressed against the glass. Human. Leaning. Sliding. The doors opened. He stumbled inside. Mid-30s. Dark jacket. One hand clamped against his abdomen. Blood seeped steadily between his fingers, dripping from his wrist to the tile in slow, thick drops. He took 3 steps. His knees buckled. He caught himself on the edge of a chair, breath dragging in through his teeth. "Help," he said. Not shouted. Forced. The waiting room reacted all at once. Someone gasped. A child whimpered. A woman stood abruptly and knocked her purse to the floor. The receptionist froze with one hand still on her keyboard. The intern half rose from his chair. The charge nurse inhaled to speak. She stepped forward. Not fast. Direct. "Gurney," she said. Her voice was level, clear, unhurried. The word cut through the room more effectively than shouting. Orderlies moved before they realized they had decided to. One wheeled a stretcher from the wall. Another cleared space. The intern hurried to grab gloves, nearly dropping the box before catching it against his chest. The injured man sagged as they guided him down. Blood smeared across the sheet. She reached his side. Her eyes moved once over the wound. Entry point, left lower quadrant. Spread pattern, downward saturation. Clotting, partial. Not fresh. Not new. Not from the last few minutes. Her gaze shifted to his sleeve. Fine gray residue dusted the fabric near the cuff. Not ash. Not dirt. She pressed 2 fingers lightly beside the wound. He flinched. Too early. Anticipation again. "Pressure," she said. The intern pressed gauze down. Harder. He obeyed. The patient groaned. Real pain this time. Behind them, someone whispered, "Call security." Someone else said, "Police are already outside." The word spread through the room in a thin wave. Police. Outside. She did not look toward the doors. She was watching his hands. His fingers twitched once near his jacket zipper. Not reaching. Checking. Confirming something was still there. Her tone did not change. "Name." "Luis," he said. "Last name." He hesitated. A fraction too long. "Martinez." She nodded once as if it meant nothing. She lifted the edge of his jacket. Not enough for anyone else to see inside. Enough. There. Weight distribution. Right side heavier. Not a wallet. Not a phone. Denser. Fixed position. She let the jacket fall back into place. No reaction. No signal. "Vitals," she said. The intern rattled numbers. She listened. Not to the values. To his voice. Shaking. She adjusted the pressure angle on the gauze by 2 degrees. Bleeding slowed. The intern stared. "How did you?" "Hold," she said. He held. Behind them, the front doors opened again as 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. Hands near belts. Eyes scanning. They took in the blood. The patient. The room. Their posture shifted instantly from casual to alert. One reached toward his radio. She spoke before he pressed it. "Gunshot," she said calmly. "Abdominal. Stable for now." Both officers looked at her. Not because of what she said. Because of how she said it. No urgency. No fear. Assessment. Did he say what happened? The taller officer asked. No. Her eyes never left the patient. The officer stepped closer. Sir, we need. Not yet, she said. He stopped. Not intentionally. Reflex. Her tone had not risen. It had simply left no space for interruption. She turned her head slightly toward the charge nurse. Trauma bay. Already moving. Staff began clearing the path. No one announced it. They just did it. Chairs shifted. A cart rolled aside. A visitor stepped back instinctively as the gurney started forward. The path was open before the wheels reached it. As they pushed, the patient's gaze flicked toward the entrance. Past the officers. Past the glass. Searching. Expecting. She saw it. Logged it. Said nothing. They reached the trauma bay doors. She held up one hand. The gurney stopped instantly. Not because she raised her voice. Because she raised her hand. She leaned slightly closer to the patient. Quiet enough that only he could hear. You came here on purpose. His eyes snapped to hers. Shock. Not at the accusation. At being understood. She straightened. Inside, she said. The doors swung open. They rolled him through. Behind them, the ER air tightened, invisible, silent, charged with the sense that something had entered with him. Something that had not finished arriving yet. The trauma bay doors swung shut behind the gurney with a soft hydraulic sigh. Inside, the air felt smaller. Not physically. Structurally. Equipment stood where it always stood. Stainless trays. Overhead lights. Oxygen ports. Monitors blinking patient green. Everything familiar. Everything clinical. Everything positioned. She took her place at the patient's left side. Not at his head. Not at his wound. Left side gave her a clear view of the door, the reflection in the glass cabinet, and the patient's dominant hand. Cut clothing, she said. Scissors appeared. Fabric split. The doctor entered mid-motion, tying his mask. What V we got? Male, mid-30s. Single GSW abdomen. Controlled bleed. Conscious. Stable vitals. The report was clean. Sequential. Complete. He nodded. Time of injury? She looked at the patient. He said nothing. She answered anyway. Approximately 40 minutes. The doctor glanced up. He tell you that? No. A beat. The doctor studied the clotting pattern. Then nodded once. Prep fluids. He did not ask how she knew. Behind the glass, movement crossed the corridor. Uniforms. 2 officers passing. Their reflections slid across the metal cabinet door in thin blue streaks. She watched them without turning her head. The patient shifted slightly. Not from pain. From listening. His eyes moved toward the hallway. Toward the reflections. She adjusted the 4-line. His gaze snapped back to her. She spoke quietly. Stay still. It sounded like medical instruction. It was not. He stayed still. The doctor pressed gently around the wound. Entry only, he murmured. No exit. She nodded. Her gloved hands rested lightly near the patient's ribs. Relaxed. Ready. Not tense. In the hallway outside, a radio crackled. Low voice. Urgent cadence. Words blurred by distance. But tone carried. Searching. Coordinating. She stepped away from the table. Picked up a stainless tray. Moved it 6 inches closer to the wall. Set forceps in a different orientation. Turned a rolling stool so its wheels faced outward. Small adjustments. Invisible reasons. The intern hovered near the foot of the bed, trying not to be in the way. "Should I notify imaging?" he asked. "Yes," the doctor said. She spoke at the same time. "No." They both looked at her. She met the doctor's eyes calmly. "Not yet. Movement risks increased bleed before stabilization." A pause. The doctor considered. Then nodded. "Right. Stabilize first." The intern swallowed and lowered his tablet. She had not raised her voice. She had not argued. She had simply stated a fact that left no room for alternatives. Outside, footsteps passed again. Faster this time. Multiple. One set heavier. Boots. She listened to the rhythm. Counted spacing. 2 officers. 1 heavier step between them. Not escorting. Escorting would be symmetrical. This was offset. Guiding someone. Or searching. The patient's fingers twitched near his hip. She saw it instantly. Her hand moved before his did. Not grabbing. Not restraining. Just resting lightly across his wrist. Warm. Still. His eyes flicked to her hand. Then to her face. She did not look at him. She looked at the monitor. Her voice stayed neutral. "Don't." He froze. Outside, a voice called faintly down the corridor, "Check ER first." Another voice answered, "Copy." The doctor leaned closer to the wound. "We'll need imaging soon." "Yes," she said. Not disagreement. Timing. She stepped toward the trauma bay entrance and opened the door halfway. Not enough to invite entry. Enough to see the hallway angle. A police officer stood 20 feet down the corridor speaking into his radio. Another moved room to room with quick glances inside. Search pattern. Not random. Not panicked. Structured. She closed the door again. "Saline," the doctor said. It was already in her hand. He took it without looking. Used it. Only after he began flushing the wound did he seem to realize he had never seen her pick it up. His eyes flicked toward her briefly. She was watching the patient's breathing. Steady. Measured. Controlled. Too controlled. A muffled shout echoed faintly from somewhere deeper in the hospital. Not loud. Not close. But wrong. Everyone in the room heard it. The intern stiffened. What was that? No one answered. Because no one knew. She did not react. Not visibly. But she shifted 1 step to the right. Now she stood between the patient and the door. Not blocking. Just present. In the hallway, running footsteps passed. Fast. Purposeful. Not staff. Too heavy. Too coordinated. The patient heard them too. His pulse ticked higher on the monitor. 72. 78. 84. She watched the numbers rise. Then she leaned slightly closer to him and spoke so quietly only he could hear. "They're not here for help." His breathing stopped. Just for a second. That was all the confirmation she needed. Outside, a voice shouted. "Clear this corridor." The command echoed through the hallway. "Clear this corridor." It was not shouted in panic. It was shouted in procedure. That difference mattered. Inside the trauma bay, no one spoke for half a second. Sound changed texture, the way it does when a room realizes something outside it has shifted from possibility to event. The intern's breathing was the first to give him away. Quick. Shallow. High in the chest. She heard it without turning. The patient heard it too. His breathing changed again. Not faster this time. Quieter. Controlled. He was trying to disappear inside his own lungs. She watched the movement of his diaphragm beneath the cut fabric. Counted the interval between inhalation and release. Not fear breathing. Not pain breathing. Waiting breathing. The doctor glanced toward the door. What's happening out there? No one answered. Because no one knew. Footsteps thundered past the trauma bay. Multiple. Heavy. Purposeful. Not hospital staff. Boot heels strike differently than rubber soles. They land with decision instead of caution. These steps did not hesitate near doorways. They did not slow at intersections. Whoever was moving out there already understood the layout. The intern swallowed. His breath hitched. She spoke without looking at him. Slow inhale. He blinked. What? In through your nose. 4 seconds. He obeyed automatically. Hold. He held. Out. His shoulders dropped a fraction. He did not realize she had just stabilized him. The patient noticed. His eyes shifted toward her. Studying. Measuring. She ignored him. Outside, a voice closer now. Second suspect entered building. Male. Dark clothing. The words carried through the door seam. The intern's breathing sped up again. The monitor beside the patient ticked upward in response to the room's tension. 88. 92. She reached over and adjusted the oxygen cannula angle beneath the patient's nose. His chest movement slowed. Not because of oxygen. Because she had just altered his awareness of his own breathing. The doctor straightened. We should move him. No, she said. One word. Flat. The doctor looked at her. If there's an armed movement increases bleed risk, she said calmly. And corridor exposure. Her tone contained no challenge. Only data. He hesitated. Listened to the sounds outside again. Running steps. Radios. A distant metallic clatter. His jaw tightened. Then he nodded once. We stay. Decision made. Not by authority. By certainty. She shifted her stance slightly. Now she could see 3 things at once. The patient's hands. The door handle. The reflection in the cabinet glass. In that reflection, the hallway appeared in a narrow angled strip. Boots passed. Paused. Turned. Gone. Search pattern tightening. The patient's fingers flexed near his hip again. She spoke softly, eyes still on the monitor. If you reach for it, they will see. His hand froze. A long inhale. Slow exhale. He whispered, barely audible, you don't know that. Her voice stayed level. I know angles. Silence. He did not move again. A sudden shout erupted outside, closer this time. Not words. Reaction. Then a radio burst. Possible sighting near East Wing. Running footsteps redirected instantly. Away from ER. The corridor outside their door emptied. Not safe. Just temporarily unattended. She noticed the absence immediately. Vacuum. Space. Opportunity. So did he. His breathing changed. There it was. Not fear. Not pain. Decision. She rested her hand lightly on the rail beside him. Not touching him. Just within reach. Her breathing slowed deliberately. In. 2. 3. 4. Out. 2. 3. 4. His chest began matching her rhythm without realizing it. Bodies copy nearby patterns. It is older than language. His pulse dropped. 90. 86. 82. The urge to act faded with it. He frowned slightly, confused at his own calm. The doctor was watching her now. Not openly. Sideways. He had started to notice something he could not name. Not authority. Precision. From the hallway came a new sound. Not boots. Not radios. A stretcher wheel. Rolling fast. Coming toward them. She shifted half a step. Weight balanced. Eyes on the door. The intern whispered, "Should we lock it?" No. Why not? Locks attract attention. He stopped breathing for a second. Then remembered. In. Hold. Out. The stretcher sound passed their door. Did not stop. Kept going. Transport team. Not threat. The intern exhaled shakily. She did not move. Because something else had changed. Silence. Too complete. The hallway outside had gone still in a way hospitals never do. No carts. No voices. No distant phones. Structured silence. Cleared space. That meant only one thing. Someone was about to enter it. The patient felt it too. His breath paused at the top of an inhale. Held. Waiting. And from somewhere just beyond the door. A single, slow footstep. The footstep stopped outside the door. Not a passing step. A placed one. Whoever stood there was not moving because they had chosen not to move. Inside the trauma bay, no one spoke. The doctor held a clamp suspended midair. The intern's fingers hovered over a gauze packet he had forgotten to open. The monitor traced green lines that suddenly sounded louder than before. She listened. Weight distribution. Breath. Fabric friction. Details most people never heard. One person outside. Male. Standing close enough that his presence absorbed the hallway's ambient echo. Facing the door. The patient felt it too. His pulse rose again. 84. 90. 96. His pupils widened a fraction. Not surprise. Recognition. She stepped forward. Not abruptly. Not defensively. She moved the way she had moved all morning, measured, unremarkable, controlled. But the direction mattered. She positioned herself between the patient and the door. No announcement. No explanation. Just placement. The doctor frowned. What are you? She lifted one finger slightly. Not toward him. Toward the air. Wait. He stopped talking. He did not know why he stopped. Only that continuing suddenly felt incorrect. Outside the door, fabric shifted. A hand brushing clothing. Adjusting grip. Preparing. She spoke quietly, still facing forward. To the back wall, she said. The intern blinked. What? She did not repeat herself. The doctor spoke instead, low and firm. Do it. The intern moved. 2 steps. 3. Back against tile. His breath started to quicken again. She did not turn. In through your nose. He obeyed automatically. The patient whispered, "You should move." She did not answer. Her hands hung loosely at her sides. Empty. Open. Still. She did not reach for equipment. Did not reach for the door. Did not brace. She simply stood where the doorway would open into her. It was not a defensive posture. It was a decision. Outside, a radio crackled softly. A voice murmured something indistinct. The man outside did not respond. His silence confirmed it. He was not police. The doctor's eyes moved from her, to the door, back to her again. Understanding began forming. Not full understanding. Shape without definition. The patient's breathing shortened. Hope was entering it now. Hope directed toward the hallway. Toward the man outside. Toward whatever plan he believed was about to finish. She heard that too. Hope has a sound. It lifts the inhale slightly higher than fear does. Her voice, when she spoke, was almost gentle. He will not make it past me. The patient stared at her. Not because of the words. Because of the certainty. No threat. No anger. Just fact. The handle moved. 1 degree. Stopped. The person outside was testing resistance. Testing sound. Testing response. She did not react. The doctor whispered, barely audible, "We should call." "They already know," she said. Calm. Certain. Final. He closed his mouth. 3 seconds passed. 4. 5. The handle turned further. Slow. Careful. Quiet. The intern's pulse thudded visibly in his throat. She heard it. Adjusted her breathing again. Slow. Even. The room unconsciously followed. Even the doctor's shoulders lowered half an inch. The door began to open. Not wide. Just enough for a shadow to enter. A shoulder first. Dark fabric. Then the edge of a jawline. Unshaven. Tense. Eyes scanning fast. Doorframe. Corners. Hands. Distances. He was trained enough to search. Not trained enough to hide that he was searching. He saw her. Paused. His brain recalculated. Not a guard. Not police. Just a nurse. Standing still. Unarmed. Blocking nothing. Threat level, minimal. His gaze shifted past her. Toward the patient. Recognition flashed. There. That was his objective. He stepped forward. 1 foot inside the room. She did not move. Behind him, down the corridor. Boot steps. Fast. Approaching. Police. Not yet close enough. But closing. The man heard them too. His jaw tightened. Decision point. Now or never. His hand began to rise. Not fast. Careful. Controlled. Reaching inside his jacket. She spoke. Softly. Don't. He froze. It was not fear that stopped him. It was instinct. The tone. The cadence. The absence of urgency. People who bluff speak loudly. People who know speak quietly. His eyes snapped back to hers. For the first time. He really looked at her. And something inside his expression shifted. Not recognition. Not yet. But doubt. Behind him. Bootsteps closer now. Voices. Commands echoing down the corridor. Police. Stop where you are. He had 1 second to choose. Forward. Or surrender. His fingers tightened inside his jacket. She did not move. Did not tense. Did not blink. And then, from the hallway. Weapons raised. Officers flooding the doorway. And stopping. Not because of him. Because of her. The officers entered fast. Not reckless. Fast the way trained movement becomes when urgency is controlled instead of feared. 2 through the doorway, 1 pivoting left, 1 right, a third behind them covering the hall. Weapons up. Eyes sharp. Voices ready. Then they stopped. Not all at once. One after another. Because she was standing there. From their angle, the scene did not read the way they expected. They saw an armed suspect half inside a trauma bay. A wounded man on a gurney. Medical staff against the wall. And a nurse standing between all of them. Hands empty. Posture neutral. Breathing steady. Step aside, ma'am, the lead officer ordered. His tone was professional. Controlled. Used to compliance. She did not step aside. She did not challenge him either. She simply said, quietly. Left. He frowned. Ma'am, move. Your left, she repeated. Not louder. Clearer. His eyes flicked. Instinct. Training. He shifted half an inch and saw it. In the reflection of the stainless cabinet beside the door. The suspect's elbow angle. The tension in the wrist. The concealed draw path inside the jacket. Crossfire line. If he advanced from his current position, his partner behind him would be directly in it. The officer's jaw tightened. He adjusted 1 step left. Now his partner had a clean angle. She had not looked at him when she said it. She was watching the suspect's breathing. The second officer whispered, "How did she?" The lead officer cut him off with a slight hand motion. "Not now." The suspect's eyes darted between them. Calculating. 3 officers. 2 angles. 1 nurse. He had expected chaos. He had not expected geometry. She spoke again, still calm. "Toes," she said. The lead officer blinked. "What?" She nodded once toward his stance. "Your forward foot." He glanced down. His toe pointed inward. Restricted pivot. He shifted it outward automatically. Now his balance was correct. Now his draw line was clear. Now he could move without crossing his partner. He looked back up at her. Really looked this time. Something clicked. He lowered his voice. Not for the suspect. For her. "Where did you train?" Her answer was just as quiet. "Pendleton." A beat. Understanding landed. Not dramatic. Not shocked. Settled. He gave the smallest nod. Then. Without announcing it. Without telling his team. He stepped half a pace sideways. Not retreating. Yielding. Command passed. No one declared it. But every officer in that doorway felt it happen. Because posture communicates faster than speech. And hers said. "I already solved this." She spoke, eyes still on the suspect. "You don't have time," she told him. Not a threat. A fact. His breathing hitched. His fingers tightened inside his jacket. She tilted her head slightly. Listening. Timing. Then she added. "They will fire before you clear fabric." Silence. The officers did not contradict her. Because they knew she was right. The suspect's gaze flicked to the wounded man on the bed. Hope. Fear. Calculation. Loss. All in half a second. Behind him, more officers filled the corridor. But none pushed forward. Not while she stood there. The wounded man whispered hoarsely, "Do it." Not loud. But she heard it. The suspect heard it. The lead officer heard it. She spoke again. Still soft. "You came for him." The suspect's eyes snapped to hers. She continued. "He is not leaving with you." Her tone never changed. The suspect swallowed. A small sound. Dry. Human. His hand trembled once inside the jacket. Not from fear of police. From uncertainty. She watched it happen. Watched the calculation unravel. Her next words were almost gentle. "If you draw, you die." No emphasis. No drama. Just physics. The hallway held its breath. Even the radios were silent. Even the monitors seemed quieter. The suspect's shoulders shifted. Micro-movement. Decision collapsing inward. His eyes searched her face for doubt. There was none. No anger. No fear. No adrenaline. Just presence. Steady. Certain. Unavoidable. Slowly. His hand came out of his jacket. Empty. It rose shoulder height. Then the other followed. Higher. Open palms. The lead officer stepped forward smoothly and secured him in one practiced motion. Weapon removed. Wrists controlled. Body turned. Cuffs applied. Clean. Efficient. Over. The wounded man on the gurney exhaled a long, defeated breath. Not pain. Resignation. The officers began moving the suspect out. Professional voices resumed. Radios crackled again. Procedure returned. The lead officer lingered 1 second. Just one. He looked at her. Not at her badge. At her eyes. Respect. Recognition. Understanding. He gave a small nod. The kind given between people who speak the same language without words. She did not nod back. She had already turned toward the monitor. Adjusting the patient's flow. Behind him, one younger officer whispered, "Who is she?" The lead officer answered quietly as he escorted the suspect away. "Not ours." A pause. Then. "But not civilian." Inside the trauma bay, the doctor let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. The intern stared at her. You told them where to stand." She checked the drip chamber level. "Yes." "How did you know?" She adjusted the tape on the 4-line. "They were standing wrong." That was all she said. The corridor emptied the way storms leave. Not suddenly. Gradually. Sound peeled away in layers, boots first, then radios, then the clipped cadence of coordinated voices moving farther down the hall. The tension they had carried with them thinned as distance stretched it. Inside the trauma bay, the air settled. Machines resumed being machines instead of metronomes. She adjusted the 4 rate by a fraction. Not because it was wrong. Because it could be better. The fluid line steadied. The drip chamber found a cleaner rhythm. The patient's pulse softened from 88 to 82. The doctor watched her hands. Precise. Unhurried. No tremor. "You've done trauma before," he said. "Yes." Not proud. Not modest. Just accurate. The intern was still against the wall. Processing. His eyes moved between her and the door like he expected someone to come back and explain what had happened. No one did. Hospitals do not pause to interpret events. They absorb them and continue. She glanced at him. Chart. He blinked. Right. He hurried to the workstation. Normal tasks. Anchors. The wounded man on the bed stared at the ceiling. His breathing had lost its earlier control. Not panic. Not pain. Something heavier. He turned his head slightly toward her. "You knew," he said. She checked the monitor lead placement. "Yes." "How long?" She smoothed the edge of tape against his skin. "Since triage." His throat tightened. "You could have said something." "Yes." She did not elaborate. He watched her face, searching for accusation. There was none. No judgment. No victory. Just attention to his oxygen saturation reading. That unsettled him more than anger would have. Down the hall, a gurney rattled past. Someone laughed faintly at a distant desk. A phone rang twice. The world had resumed. The doctor removed his gloves slowly. "Police will want statements." "Yes. You should be the one giving most of it." She disposed of gauze in the bin. "Anyone present can report what they saw." "That's not what I meant." She met his eyes. Calm. Patient. Waiting. After a moment, he nodded once. "Right," he said quietly. "Of course." At the doorway, a uniformed officer appeared. Not hurried. Not tense. The lead officer. He stood there respectfully, not crossing the threshold. "Ma'am." She turned slightly. "Yes." "Suspects in custody. Scene secure." She inclined her head. "Understood." He hesitated. His eyes flicked briefly toward the others in the room. Then back to her. "We may need a statement later. I'll be here until 1900. "Yes, ma'am." He didn't write it down. He didn't need to. He started to leave. Stopped. Turned back half a step. His voice lowered. "Recon?" One word. Quiet. She held his gaze. A beat passed. Then she answered. "Former." He nodded. No surprise. Just confirmation. "Thought so." He left. The intern stared after him. What did he mean? She adjusted the blanket edge near the patient's shoulder. "He meant he has work to do." Silence returned. Not tense. Not charged. Finished. She removed her gloves. Disposed of them. Washed her hands. Full count. Water off. Dry. Routine. At the nurse's station, two clerks were already talking about the incident. "Did you see how many cars there were?" "At least 6. I heard he ran 3 blocks. I heard he had a gun. I heard." Their voices blended into background noise. No one mentioned her. She signed the chart. Time. Vitals. Notes. Her handwriting was small and exact. The intern approached slowly. "Nurse Carter?" "Yes." "Are you really?" "Yes," she said gently. He stopped. Considered. Then nodded once. Not because he understood. Because he understood he didn't need to. She clipped her pen back into her pocket. Checked the hallway. Clear. Normal foot traffic. Normal sound. Normal light. A monitor chimed from room 4. She turned immediately and walked toward it. Not fast. Not slow. Exactly on time. Inside, the elderly woman looked up anxiously. It beeped again. She glanced at the screen. Adjusted one lead wire. The beeping stopped. "There," she said. The woman smiled in relief. "Thank you, dear." She inclined her head once. You're welcome. Outside, far beyond the hospital walls, sirens faded into distance. Inside, under steady fluorescent light, Nurse Carter checked the woman's pulse. 78. Normal. She wrote it down. And continued her shift.